I don't think people realize how mentally tired they've become. Not physically tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. I mean the strange kind of exhaustion where even small things start feeling heavy. Answering messages, picking something to watch, holding conversations, thinking clearly for more than a few minutes. And the weird part is that modern life doesn't even look exhausting from the outside anymore. Most people are just sitting down all day, looking at screens, scrolling, listening to something while doing something else, while thinking about 5 other things at the same time. But somehow people feel more drained than ever. And I think part of it comes from the fact that the brain almost never gets left alone anymore. There's always something entering your mind. A notification, a video, a headline, a voice, a recommendation, a song playing quietly in the background, because silence feels uncomfortable now. It's like modern life slowly removed every empty space from people's minds. And at first, it felt normal, even convenient, because boredom used to feel annoying. Waiting used to feel annoying. Being alone with your thoughts used to feel unnecessary. So people filled every gap with stimulation. Now most people can't even stand in line for 30 seconds without reaching for their phone. Not because something important happened, just because their brain expects input constantly. And after a while, your mind starts feeling crowded all the time, even when nothing is happening. That's the strange thing about overstimulation. You don't always notice it while it's happening. You notice it later, when your attention feels weak, when resting somehow doesn't feel restful anymore, when you open apps without even thinking, when you switch between tabs every few seconds like your brain forgot how to stay in one place. A lot of people wake up already mentally occupied. Before they even fully open their eyes, they're checking notifications, looking at messages, scrolling through things they won't even remember an hour later. And it sets the tone for the entire day. Their brain never fully wakes up slowly anymore. It gets hit with information immediately. Opinions, news, arguments, videos, advertisements, people showing perfect moments from their lives, people pretending to be happier than they are, people performing personalities for strangers online. And the brain has to process all of it constantly, even when you think you're relaxing. That's why a lot of modern entertainment doesn't actually feel calming anymore. It feels numbing. There's a difference. Something calming leaves your mind feeling lighter afterward. Something numbing just temporarily distracts you from yourself. And I think a lot of people confuse the two now, because modern life rewards distraction so aggressively. Every platform is fighting for attention. Every app wants engagement. Every video wants retention. Everything is designed to keep your mind slightly stimulated for as long as possible. And after years of living inside that environment, normal life can start feeling strangely empty. Quiet moments feel uncomfortable. Slow moments feel boring. Even conversations sometimes feel difficult because people are used to constant dopamine shifts. You can actually feel this happening when you try to focus on one thing for too long. There's this subtle urge to check something else. Like part of the brain keeps asking for another hit of stimulation. Another tab, another scroll, another video, another thought. And over time, it becomes hard to tell whether you genuinely want something or whether your brain just wants interruption. I think that's one reason so many people feel emotionally disconnected now too. Not because they don't care, but because their attention is fragmented all the time. And attention is deeply connected to emotion. You can't fully experience life when your mind is constantly halfway somewhere else. You notice this in small moments. People watching videos while eating, scrolling while talking to friends, listening to music while checking notifications, while another video plays in the corner. Everyone is technically present, but mentally they're scattered. And eventually that scattered feeling starts becoming your default state. Your brain adapts to constant interruption. Deep focus starts feeling unnatural. Stillness starts feeling unnatural. Even rest starts feeling unnatural. A lot of people say they're relaxing when they're actually just overstimulating themselves in softer ways. There's always noise, always content, always something happening. And because it happens every day, people stop noticing how exhausting it actually is. Modern life also created this weird pressure to always be mentally available. You're reachable all the time now. Someone can text you anytime. Work can reach you anytime. Social media can pull your attention anytime. There's barely a clear boundary anymore between being on and being off. Even at night, people are still mentally connected to everything, still checking things, still consuming things, still comparing themselves to strangers online, still processing information right before sleeping. And I think the human brain was never really built for this level of constant psychological input, because for most of history, people experienced life in smaller environments, smaller circles, slower information, longer periods of silence. Now people absorb more opinions in one day than someone generations ago probably absorbed in months. And even if you think you're ignoring it, your brain still carries the weight of all that information quietly. That's why so many people feel this low-level mental fatigue they can't fully explain. Nothing terrible happened. Life just feels heavy for some reason. Even simple decisions start becoming draining. What to watch, what to eat, what to reply, what version of yourself to present online. There are too many choices now. Too many things competing for attention at the same time. And the human brain doesn't seem to handle endless options very gracefully. You can see it in the way people consume things now too. Nobody finishes anything anymore. People skip through songs halfway, watch videos at double speed, open movies while scrolling on another app. Even entertainment gets consumed impatiently now, as if the brain became uncomfortable with staying fully engaged in one experience. And honestly, I don't even think people realize how much this changes their inner world over time, because attention shapes experience. What you pay attention to eventually becomes your reality. So if your attention is constantly broken into tiny pieces all day, life itself starts feeling fragmented too. Days blur together faster, moments feel less vivid, experiences stop fully landing emotionally, and eventually people start saying things like, "I don't really feel present anymore." But presence requires mental space, and mental space has become rare. I think loneliness connects to this too in a strange way, because people technically interact more than ever now. Messages, comments, notifications, group chats, constant contact, but a lot of it feels thin. Quick reactions, short replies, half-attention conversations, people responding while doing 3 other things. And deep connection usually needs the exact thing modern life interrupts constantly: undivided attention. That's probably why so many conversations feel emotionally unsatisfying now. Not because nobody cares, but because everyone's brain is overloaded. People are mentally tired before the conversation even begins, and mentally exhausted people struggle to fully show up emotionally. Sometimes I think people miss older versions of life without even realizing what they actually miss. It's not necessarily the technology itself. It's the feeling of having fewer mental layers between yourself and reality. Moments used to feel slower, more direct, less filtered through screens and algorithms and constant commentary. Now almost every experience immediately becomes content. A photo, a post, a story, a reaction. Nothing fully settles before people move to the next thing. And maybe that's part of why so many people feel detached from their own lives now, because they're constantly observing life while simultaneously performing it. Even rest has become performative sometimes. People romanticize self-care online while still remaining mentally overstimulated underneath it all. And I think the brain eventually reaches a point where it quietly asks for less noise, less input, less urgency, not because someone hates modern life, but because constant stimulation eventually stops feeling exciting and starts feeling exhausting. You can almost feel society reaching that point now. People wanting slower mornings, longer walks, quiet spaces, less notifications, not in some dramatic anti-technology way, just in a deeply human way, like the mind is trying to recover some sense of stillness again. And maybe that's why small moments feel strangely powerful now. Sitting somewhere without checking your phone, driving at night without playing 10 different things in the background, having a conversation that doesn't feel rushed, eating without scrolling, looking out a window for a few minutes without immediately needing stimulation. Those moments used to be ordinary. Now they almost feel unfamiliar. And that alone says a lot about the way modern life changed people internally. I also think people underestimate how exhausting it is to constantly compare your internal life to everyone else's external life. Every day, people absorb hundreds of tiny signals telling them how they should look, behave, think, work, travel, date, heal, succeed, and live. Even when you consciously reject it, some part of the brain still processes it. And after enough time, people start feeling behind without even knowing what race they're trying to catch up to. That quiet pressure sits in the background constantly, not loud enough to fully notice, but present enough to slowly drain people mentally over time. Because underneath all the entertainment and distraction and endless scrolling, I think a lot of people are just mentally overwhelmed. Not weak, not lazy, just overloaded. And the scary part is how normal it became. People joke about having no attention span anymore, about being emotionally numb, about forgetting things constantly, about feeling burned out all the time. But those things used to feel unusual. Now they feel expected. Like exhaustion became part of everyday life. And maybe that's why modern life feels so strangely heavy sometimes. Not because people are doing more meaningful things than before, but because their minds rarely get a chance to fully rest from anything. There's always something pulling at their attention, something asking to be consumed, something asking for a reaction. And after enough years, that constant mental movement starts shaping the way life feels internally. Not sharp enough to shock people, just constant enough to slowly wear them down, quietly, little by little, until being mentally exhausted starts feeling normal. And that's the part people barely notice anymore.